Hello, good afternoon. I'm speaking to you from Zurich, presenting today about the future of tokenized securities, which is do-it-yourself, automated, and decentralized for Smart Money Match Summit today. Okay, let me take you through a background of the tokenized securities. So, we are now on the fourth or fifth era since the beginning of internet. So first came the internet, then came the mobile devices, then came the platforms, and then came the crypto and tokens beginning somewhere 2015, 2016, and now we are in the fifth era of NFTs, metaverse, and digital assets. So we are probably in the fifth wave of innovation starting from the internet. What is the tokenization of assets? Tokenization of assets is creating a digital representative of real assets on the blockchain. So theoretically, the scope for tokenization of real assets is unlimited. So what are the benefits of tokenization? Some benefits of tokenization are increased liquidity, cost efficiency, transparency, and protection, and also reduce friction and getting rid of intermediaries, and therefore the cost that is associated with intermediation. Now let's come to the life cycle of a tokenized security. So basically, a company in its life cycle first raises capital from crowdfunding or family and friends round or angels, which is in a private setting, and then you have something called a private placement. Then the company raises money from more public sources, or even before that approaches a VC, and then when the company goes public, then its stock is available over the counter, and finally the stock is available in exchanges, which is called the secondary markets. So the major context for today's talk is I want to talk about the problems with IPOs, initial public offer. What is the problem with IPOs? IPOs are undemocratic. IPOs keep out the entrepreneurs that most need the capital from public, and all these intermediaries who bloat up the capital markets increase the cost of capital for these entrepreneurs, which is around 7 to 10%. So most entrepreneurs are kept out of the public markets. And also during this IPO process, which is completely under the control of investment banks, the companies have very less say and control about who their investors are, and they are not building relationships with them in the critical phase of the company's journey when they ought to be building relationships. And also the investment banks completely decide to which investors the stock goes to, and they determine the price also. And investment banks have many masters to serve, and that means they have conflicts of interest and agency costs, which means the companies that are raising the money are at a loss. So investment banks are an expensive intermediary, and I argue redundant, therefore making this a ripe case for decentralization with smart contracts and automation of the IPO process, completely getting rid of the investment banks. So what is the problem with securities issuance? So in the pre-issuance phase, companies have no say in what their market price should be, and that is completely determined by investment banks. And as the Wall Street history has borne, this pricing is many times erroneous, as we see sometimes 20-30% of slippage or appreciation as soon as the IPO is listed. So investment banks are not the authorities, not the experts in valuation, and they can get it as wrong as the general public or even the company. And the good thing is the STO ecosystem, which is the phrase for securitized token offerings. This ecosystem has matured a lot since my pioneering white paper on decentralizing capital markets, which I wrote in 2018. So today, if you see the ecosystem, there are primary issuances platforms, then there are exchanges which list security tokens, and then There are also alternative trading systems or secondary markets for trading, and also decentralized exchanges. So the entire ecosystem is well developed and the infrastructure and the rails are there. The only missing piece in this whole thing is the platform to do IPOs itself. So when you don't create shares in the first place as tokens, that is the piece that is missing in the entire ecosystem that we have available today, and that is the piece that is my vision to create and to fill this gap in the ultimate vision of making this entire capital raising process online, automated, intermediary less, frictionless, cheap, efficient, transparent, and fail proof, which is completely done on smart contracts. So I'm also going to try and upload a presentation where you can see all those slides. Here I have compared the ICOs, which we saw the boom in 2017 and 2018, and the STOs, which is the boom we saw immediately after the aftermath of ICOs, and then the ISTOs, initial share token offering, which I propose to create on my platform during the process of the companies doing an IPO. So here is a feature by feature comparison of these three, and the good news is the ISTO can be done, which is a complete exact replica or equivalent of an IPO, except that the shares are being produced in a completely digital format in the form of a tokenized share. They are regulated, they follow the securities law, they fall under the jurisdictions of whichever jurisdiction the company chooses, and you have to tick the boxes of all the securities of that particular jurisdiction before you access this IPO platform to create your initial public shares. What are the benefits to issuers? Benefits to issuers: there are no middlemen, so therefore there is no cost of intermediaries, no more investment banks, and therefore you lose the 7 to 10% that was going to the pockets of not the entrepreneur but the other middlemen. No dancing to the tune of private capital, so no more entrepreneurs getting sacrificed at the altar of gatekeepers who tell which entrepreneur will raise funding and which entrepreneur does not. Because you can never say where a Steve Jobs is coming from, or where a Sam Walton is coming from, where a Jeff Bezos is coming from. So you cannot qualify them from their background or their prior success to determine their future. And not only do you not pay fees to the investment bank, but you also meet your whitelisted KYC investors on the platform itself. That means the platform already has a bunch of investors waiting there for a series of IPOs, and they can prioritize or they can pick and choose which IPOs they would like to see. So we are breaking down the barriers between investors, mostly I mean retail investors, and the companies, that is the companies raising capital. So that is ultimately the entrepreneur's vision. And if such a thing were accessible and applicable in the market, any entrepreneur or any company around the world can raise money in a matter of minutes through smart contracts, and it is directly under the control of the company. And what are the benefits of using digital shares? The digital shares are not only trackable because they are on smart contracts, they can also be bequeathed, so they can be transferred. The ownership can be transferred to anybody you choose just by the smart contract, and you have lower cost of equity. That means en masse you are reducing, bringing down the cost of capital for the entire productive industry. So wherever founders and entrepreneurs are creating value for humanity, you are drastically bringing down their cost of equity or cost of capital. That means you are boosting the global productivity of humanity. And this is obviously higher efficiency. This can enable easier loanability of shares, and this can spawn an entire diverse range of new products. And of course, the shares are trackable. So wherever you are, whether you are sitting in asset manager's portfolio or whether you are sitting in your private custodial wallet, we can exactly see where the shares are, and who the owner is, how much dividends have accrued to the owner, and what's the future, like whether there's a stock split and how much can you expect. And you can also see performance reporting, you can see dividends being distributed, and you can see shareholder actions such as annual general meetings and so on, in which you can participate very frictionlessly. So the benefits of tokenizing assets are manifold. So tokenization requires a solid infrastructure. As I said, when I wrote the white paper a few years ago in 2018 and a preliminary white paper in 2017, it was just my vision. I had absolute faith that this was going to be reality one day, and today it is. But at that time there was no infrastructure, no ecosystem, and it's very heartening for me to see today that the market is replete with infrastructure. There is billions of dollars already backing various players who are required cogs of the wheel of this infrastructure. So everything is in place. And what are some strengths of tokenization? So digitization, disintermediation, automation, global trustless platform. There is one problem that I see, which is the problem of liquidity, which is all pervasive in the crypto ecosystem anyway, because no matter which asset you take, whether it's decentralized exchange or centralized exchange, sometimes you have this liquidity problem. So initially tokenized securities will also face this liquidity problem, but it's a matter of time before markets will completely adapt to this new paradigm of tokenized securities, of digital assets on the smart contracts, and there will be liquidity, just like there is enough liquidity today for BTC and Ether and so on. And what's the size of this market we're talking about? The size of digital securities is whopping $86 trillion. And today, the whole crypto market is sitting at a $2 trillion economy, whereas the securities, that is shares, digital shares alone, this category alone is expected to cross $4 trillion by 2025. So today, if you're looking at the entire crypto economy, which is $2 trillion, and you're looking at one asset class, which is not it in the crypto world, that is digitalized securities, tokenized securities, that is going to cross $4 trillion, which is already twice the size of the crypto economy. And we are talking about the big picture, which is $86 trillion. So imagine capturing even a small percentage of that in the crypto ecosystem. So we are HCX, Himalaya Capital Exchange. It's the world's first automated IPO platform, and I'm very delighted to see there is a lot of interest from Silicon Valley, from the biggies like Andreessen Horowitz and many of the influencers like Social Capital's Chamath and so on, talking about SPACs and direct listings. So direct listings have already happened with many iconic IPOs like Shopify, Slack and so on. So this is not a new concept, except that it has been an adventure for each of the companies doing a direct listing or a SPAC, simply because they did not have access to a public utility or a platform like how HCX envisions building. So what is the project roadmap? We want to do a pre-token sale for up to $5 million before we list on an exchange, the HCX token, and then we'll be open to a public sale, and then that will be an IEO, initial exchange offering, and then by which time we also would like to have the proof of concept ready. So within 6 months of the initial funding of $5 million, and then we'll have built exchanges for trading of security tokens, which is tokenized securities. So we are talking purely of regulated tokenized shares. This has to be distinguished from security tokens, which were a buzzword in the past few years. And we have a competent team. I'm lucky to have put them together, and they believe in the vision, and they believe in our ability to pull off this vision, and they're incredibly proud to be part of this team, which is trying the world's first disruption of a major industry which has never been subject to disruption, which is Wall Street and investment banking. So empowering entrepreneurs around the world is our mission, and to make capital frictionless, easy, and all pervasive, like Ethereum today is the fuel for smart contracts, for anything to do online and anything to do on computer. And here is our contact details. It's team@himalayalabs.com, and we also have a Telegram group called Himalaya Capital Exchange. I look forward to you getting in touch with us if this concept has interested you. My name is Arifa Khan. Thank you from Zurich this afternoon.